ThunderCats, ho! Hey, hey, Wolfpack, we're back with another surprise tier stream. Feel the magic, hear the roar, ThunderCats are loose. But sadly, we're not talking about the OG 80s ThunderCats. We're talking about the criminally underrated 2010 ThunderCats reboot. This show was pawsome. I really love it. The ThunderCats, the anime one, is one of the best cartoons Cartoon Network ever released. It's honestly pretty underappreciated. It did for ThunderCats what Transformers Prime did for the Transformers franchise, what Renegades did for G.I. Joe, what the 2000s He-Man reboot did for He-Man. You get the picture. It is an awesome reboot that absolutely nailed its franchise perfectly, and introduced the ThunderCats and their greatness to a whole bunch of newbies such as myself. I really hope a lot of you like this tier list, because I really love this cartoon. So, tragically, the ThunderCats was a short-lived cartoon. It was very expensive to make, it was merchandise-driven, and Cartoon Network allegedly canceled it because they weren't selling as many toys as they hoped. I think that is complete BS, but whatever, it's gone now. Hopefully it'll come back, but it might be a bit too late by now, but I do love this cartoon. Hi everyone, how are you? AV Scorpio, I'm fine. So, I was going to do a DC related tier list, however, I wanted to do a shorter one because I ended up finishing my script early, so I'm gonna try and save my voice to actually record a video after this. The new Power Rangers Top 10 is now public, check that out. Lightspeed Rescue is also an awesome show. But we're here to talk about the ThunderCats, and this cartoon, pretty amazing. A lot of people kind of forgot it existed because it wasn't as high profile as some of Cartoon Network's other S-tier shows like Ed, Edd and Eddy, Courage the Cowardly Dog, Powerpuff Girls, and especially the Clone Wars. Clone Wars kind of eclipsed this show because Star Wars was a huge brand name, at least back then. So, 17 characters. Yeah, we are going to be counting all the main characters from ThunderCats. If you don't know, ThunderCats is basically a high fantasy, sci-fi, epic adventure tale. It's like swords and sorcery type of storytelling, a lot of superhero-related stuff, kind of akin to Avatar meets Star Wars, basically. Has that kind of storytelling, ancient sources of evil, great knights becoming noble heroes. Lion-O is the main character, destined to save the entire universe from the great evil known as Mum-Ra. It's one of those kind of shows, really great high fantasy magic type of shows. A lot of great characters. These are iconic badass cartoon characters. The ThunderCats originally had a show back then in the 80s, and this was the reboot introducing it and its greatness to a whole new generation such as myself. I really like it. We have all the main characters from the show. It was only a one-season show, 26 episodes max, but man, it was really good. The worst thing I have to say about the show is that it got canceled and ended on a cliffhanger, but we'll see if Cartoon Network revives it or not. But we're counting all the main characters, gonna talk about them, go over them, and where they rank with me. Don't worry, we have a lot of good characters on here, but we are only counting the characters who matter, so no one-shot characters or very minor side characters like Robert Bill or the Fish Captain. They're not on here. Only the characters who appeared in at least more than one episode or are a huge part in both cartoons. We have all the main heroes and villains on this list, and I'll be ranking them on this here tier list from top best to bottom worst. So, if this is your first ever tier list, I'll go over the basic rules. I'll be talking about each of these characters and how I feel about them, and I will be ranking them all on this here tier list. Up top, we have Love. This pretty much speaks for itself. The 10 out of 10s, the perfect ones. The characters I absolutely love from this show, and definitely are S-tier cartoon badasses. Then, underneath, we have Very Good. These ones speaks for itself, very good. Pretty much A tier. They're pretty golden. They're the 8 and 9 out of 10 characters. Might have some criticisms here, too, over how they were written or portrayed, but honestly, I will still say they're very good. Right in the middle, we actually have Good. These ones decent, okay, they did their job, they're average, not the worst characters by far. Could have used a little more pizzazz in their writing, but that's really the only fault they have. They are pretty much good characters overall. Then we have, whatever, kind of forgettable ones, the mess, the weak links, the characters who just didn't really click for me. But at rock bottom, we have hate. Yeah, these ones, 0 out of 10s, the worst of the worst, bottom of the barrel, worst characters in the series, and believe it or not, we might not actually see anyone down here, at least depending on how we go along this ranking, but yeah, we might actually have a low amount of F tiers on this because ThunderCats 2011 was a great series. Hi, Cat. ThunderCat. Yep, we're talking about ThunderCats, the 2011 anime show, not the 80s cartoon, and not ThunderCats Roar. Thank goodness. That show sucked. If you're curious how I felt about that one, I watched one episode, then I immediately quit. ThunderCats Roar is complete trash. This is the show everyone likes. Basically kind of Avatar meets Star Wars. The show definitely had a huge influence from Star Wars and Conan the Barbarian, and yes, Avatar The Last Airbender. It got heavily criticized because some people claim it was an Avatar ripoff, but ThunderCats had been around a lot longer, and I think they were just kind of trying to fit in that spirit, the theme Avatar had. It was definitely not a ripoff at all, because clearly the show was written by people who were fans and wanted to have fun with the ThunderCats lore, and I think they did a really good job. Hi, Akira. Like better than ThunderCats Boar remake. Could Grey DeLisle play Cheetara in a future anime ThunderCats? Well, fun fact, Akira, Grey DeLisle did play Cheetara on this show. She plays Kid Cheetara in a flashback. Yeah, so technically Grey DeLisle did also voice another sexy cat girl, but she played Cheetara when she was a young kid. But we'll talk about that later as we go over this tier list. So, the ThunderCats have a pretty unique roster of characters. I am not including a ton of one-shot characters because the main characters are who we really want to talk about and who really mattered overall in this show. The ThunderCats basically trek across their planet, Third Earth, meeting a lot of characters who were from the 80s show or entirely new OCs going on wacky misadventures and very dark epic storytelling. The show was a really big hit, but it had some great characters and maybe a weak link or two, but we'll see as we go over this tier list. We have all the main ThunderCats, all the primary cats, and the villains. Mum-Ra and his forces of evil are all on this list, and we'll be ranking them right now, so let's finally start. Did she use Daphne Blake's voice or Emily Elizabeth voice? Her Emily Elizabeth voice. Now, this is an appropriate stream for you to do, Kat. Yeah, finally talking about a franchise I care about. We talked about Transformers, we talked about Power Rangers, we talked about TMNT, and we even talked about G.I. Joe. Now let's do another great epic 80s franchise, the ThunderCats. And we're doing one of their best reboots, the 2011 one. Like it's a shame Lion-O vs. He-Man was mid. Yeah, the death battle. Yeah, I saw that. I call bullcrap on He-Man winning. But speaking of which, let's finally start. So we should start with the main protagonist, the Lord of the ThunderCats, the coming-of-age story of Lion-O. This is Lion-O, the main protagonist and chosen one hero. Lion-O, of course, going on to love. I mean, it's Lion-O, and they even got friggin' Will Friedle to play him. Yes, Will Friedle, the voice of Bumblebee, and Terry McGinnis, Batman Beyond, plays Lion-O, and does an exquisite job because Lion-O is a really epic character. So, the main protagonist was kind of tricky. They did re-alter Lion-O's origin, though I will say they captured the spirit of the 80s show. If you don't know, in the 80s show, Lion-O is actually a boy trapped in a grown man's body. He was originally a child who was going to be raised by the ThunderCats. Then when they went into cryostasis, cryopods, Lion-O's pod was kind of broken, and he ended up aging. He became an adult man on the outside, but still had the intellect and soul of a child deep down, and it was basically his coming of age story. Here, Lion-O is basically a young adult going on to adulthood. I believe they say he's 18. His birthday happens in the first episode. Lion-O is basically the child king who is ascending to manhood. He's learning to be a great king, a great warrior, and undergoing his hero's journey, rising as the Lord of the ThunderCats. And I actually do think this idea is well executed on this show. Yeah, I know Lion-O's a lot younger than he was in the first show, but everyone keeps forgetting that Lion-O is also supposed to be like a man-child, which I think they kind of capture here. He's kind of a egotistical, bratty teenager, slowly growing up, kind of akin to an Anakin Skywalker character, without fully turning to the dark side. Yeah, Will Friedle is also Jimmy Armstrong in the tale of the long-ago locket. My theory is Cat is part of the ThunderCats. I wish. I am an alien cat, but these cats actually have humanoid forms. Okay, so Lion-O is the main character. We watch him grow up, we watch him learn from his mistakes. Lion-O often made really dumb rookie moves in the first half of the season. He slowly grows smarter over the course of the story and befriends and becomes a better leader for his fellow ThunderCats. Lion-O is actually looked down upon by the entire world. The ThunderCat Kingdom did not want him to be leader. They wanted his brother Tigra, but because Lion-O is actually related to the king, he follows that bloodline tradition. Lion-O is seen as crazy because he believes in exploring more about the world, that he wants to treat the other races like people. The ThunderCats society is very oppressive, very racist, and at the start of the series, their kingdom falls apart. Mum-Ra invades them and successfully defeats them, dethrones the cats as the great rulers of Third Earth, and Lion-O has to rebuild his empire. He recruits basically a bunch of main characters, befriends a bunch of people, shows that the cats want to change for the better and save their society, and proving himself as a worthy hero. Lion-O has a lot of great episodes, usually putting his ego in check, having him grow up. Lion-O does make rookie mistakes in the first half. The second half he gets a little better. He's much wiser, starts thinking strategically, and drops some harsh truths on the ThunderCats if they are forced to make like a morally gray decision. Like I never saw it since I was in elementary. Oh, I saw this like all the time while I was in elementary, going on to middle school. Yeah, I thought the show was really decent, really fun, really kick-ass. So, Lion-O is a pretty fun main character. Exactly like, he's kind of like He-Man, basically a boy becoming a man. He has that sword, the Sword of Omens, which can do a lot of things, kind of a magical sword. He loses his weapons, has to prove himself, undergoes sort of the anointment trials from the 80s cartoon. He learns to become much wiser, much smarter, thinking strategically, treating his fellow felines as his people rather than his soldiers. He befriends them. He has the love triangle with Cheetara. He and Tigra both fight over her because Cheetara is pretty hot. She's like a perfect 10. Yeah, they both fight over her. He ends up not getting the girl, and Lion-O basically has to struggle and find himself. He has his heart broken, suffers a lot of emotional pain, especially in the second half of the season. He finds second love in Palmyra, and if you know the twist, this does not end very well. But yeah, Lion-O, I think he's a great main character. Really cool, really badass. He captures the spirit of his 80s counterpart very perfectly. Will Friedle, as always, is definitely a highlight of his shows. He captures that coming into manhood type of character very well, very perfectly. Lion-O's pretty badass in the show too. He can fight. The problem is he has to control his emotions, and he masters that as the series goes on. But yeah, I'm gonna put him onto love. Will he be outclassed? Likely, but we'll see. So next we have to do the villain, the ultimate evil, Mum-Ra, the ever-living Mum-Ra. Yeah, shocker, also going on to love. This villain is awesome. Mum-Ra is just as cool as Transformers Prime's Megatron and Renegade's Cobra Commander. They did this guy so much justice on the show. Mum-Ra is creepy, terrifying, and ultra powerful. Mum-Ra gets kind of reinvented as this Emperor Palpatine type of character. They really go all out on animating how hideous and monstrous he is. Basically, hard to tell if he ever was human in the first place. Mum-Ra actually gets a much deeper backstory in this show compared to his 80s counterparts, and amazingly, he's not played for laughs. That's kind of what made Mum-Ra so good for many ThunderCats fans. He's not played for comedy at all. He is a dead serious horror monster from hell, kind of the male equivalent to Queen Bansheera. Like I see Laura Bailey as Cheetara. Yes, she could do it. Could we have a Telltale Games of ThunderCats? We should, but we'll have to see if copyright would allow that. Telltale's still refixing itself. Yeah, Robin Atkin Downes plays Mum-Ra. He is awesome in this. This is like my favorite Robin Atkin Downes role. He was so good as Mum-Ra that he would actually go on to voice Shinnok, a character very loosely based off of Mum-Ra, both ancient evil sorcerers / galactic conquerors. So in this show, Mum-Ra gets a new backstory. He is a former galactic conqueror. Mum-Ra is trying to take over everything across the stars. He's taking over planets, taking over galaxies, and killing anyone in his path. We actually see what Mum-Ra was like before he became a decayed mummy man. Mum-Ra was an unstoppable force of evil, again, kind of like an Emperor Palpatine-like character, also a bit of Megatron too. He was this huge gargantuan demon guy you see here, and that was his original form. Mum-Ra is basically conquering everywhere, and we see in the past that Lion-O's distant ancestor decided to rebel against him because Mum-Ra was not at all a benevolent dictator. He was evil incarnate, a psychopath, a monster, a racist oppressor, basically killing people for the most petty of reasons. He worked with the Lion's ancestor, and the Lion-O's ancestor basically betrayed him because he found out how monstrous Mum-Ra truly was. He idolized him, but it was very clear Mum-Ra did not care about the lesser beings at all. Never seen ThunderCats? Aw, Moonwing, you're missing out on a great show. You have to watch that. Who played Kano, Shinnok in MK Legends, Scorpion's Revenge. Yeah, Robin Atkin Downes also played Manchester Black on Superman vs. the Elite, and Abomination in a lot of Marvel shows. They'll also like him as Baron Zemo in Earth's Mightiest Heroes. Like, it's a shame Skeletor fight Lord Zed than Mum-Ra. Like, what opponents could he get in Death Battle? Yeah, who could Mum-Ra fight? I believe Pyron would definitely be interesting. Yeah, Henrik, Zemo, the Abomination in Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and Gentleman Ghost in Justice League Unlimited. Oh, that was him. Okay, I did not know that. I thought he was in a different DC property. Okay, so Mum-Ra was basically this evil dark side dictator. He was conquering everywhere. Lion-O's ancestor betrayed him by gathering these basically infinity stones, and they created the Sword of Omens. They managed to create a super armor to overthrow Mum-Ra with the forces of good. Mum-Ra was sealed away in his sarcophagus to be locked away forever. However, he was unlocked by Groon, another villain we meet later. Groon sought ultimate power and was corrupted by Mum-Ra and frees him. And Mum-Ra is now unleashed in the present day, trying to destroy ThunderCat society, becoming the ultimate villain, and I really like him. He's very creepy, very deadly. They gave him this very unholy ancient demon kind of vibe, which made Mum-Ra a whole lot creepier than he was in the 80s show. Yeah, he was pretty badass in the 80s tune too, but this Mum-Ra very much a hands-on type of villain. He's there in the front lines, he's there fighting, and he is very vicious and bloodthirsty in this show. A lot more threatening than Transformers Prime's Megatron, I will say. Robin Atkin Downes absolutely steals the show as this villain. He is having a blast being this evil ancient baddie. Mum-Ra is pretty much Lion-O's polar opposite, a force of evil. He's a evil king. He wants to take over the world himself, but obviously through a lot of underhanded and evil ways. He wants to oppress people. He wants to build his kingdom on top of a pile of skulls, basically. I see Anakaris from Darkstalkers or Conra in Killer Instinct fighting him. That could work too. Also, he played Fortius in Scooby-Doo Spooky Games. Never saw it. So, Mum-Ra gets even more awesome as the show goes on. I do like his ridiculous sarcophagus vehicle. His, like, coffin can turn into, like, a jet and also a tank. That's, pretty creative. I would have bought a toy of that if they did sell it again. Yeah, Mum-Ra, very vicious. He succeeds in stealing one of the stones thanks to an overly complicated plan we'll get to later. But Mum-Ra always has a plan, is always a few steps ahead of the heroes. Even when the heroes finally gain a victory, he still walks away at the end vowing revenge and has a new plan ready to unleash upon those foolish heroes, and actually does get away in the end of the finale. Of course, we were gonna have a second season where we would see Mum-Ra and Lino's final fight, but that never happened. Though, I do also love his great summon skull armor. Mum-Ra manages to steal one of the Infinity Stones, and it gives him a power upgrade, giving him this heavy metal summon skull look, which I really dig. He actually looked more badass than before. So that's why Mum-Ra's going on to S tier. He is an ultimate villain. I think the original Mum-Ra's better. Well, Anime Night, you have to watch this cartoon. I forgot about this show. A lot of people did, but we also talked about Green Lantern. Original Mum-Ra, he is definitely no slouch in the villain department, but I think this portrayal actually made him even cooler than before. He is in the same league as classic Mum-Ra. If Mum-Ra from the 80s cartoon was scary, this guy is vicious. This is why I kind of like this Mum-Ra a bit more. Plus, Robin Atkin Downes is one of my favorite voice actors, and this was the role that solidified that, so new Mum-Ra is going on to love. Also, Mum-Ra has his weakness. Yeah, in the 80s cartoon, seeing his reflection is his weakness because he's like seeing all the concentrated evil he has. In this show, it's light. Like, light is what kills him, which kind of gets confusing as it goes on because we see him like clearly standing in light and daylight and he still has his ultimate form. I guess it needs to be like a noble light, like kind of a heaven light. Yeah, they retconned it. In this show, he's weakened by light. In the 80s show, it was his reflection, and I guess it was kind of seen as a lot more goofier and cartoonish that his reflection is what scared him away. Here, it's the light, and I believe it's supposed to be like a heaven light. You know, like he's literally a demon, so light is usually good, and the lights of heaven is what burns him away and sends him flying in fear. Which I did think was pretty cool. Like, so much better than the Pharaoh from Miraculous, like he doesn't have a Mum-Ra form. Well, that's because they were cheap on the CGI. But yeah, Mum-Ra going on to love. Speaking of love, let's talk about Cheetara. Oh yeah, everyone's favorite cat girl waifu that isn't Catwoman. Cheetara also going on to love, and yes, I might actually put her above Lino because really dig her. Cheetara definitely a huge top 10 perfect catgirl waifu material. Cheetara on the show is actually even better than she was in the 80s cartoon, and that's saying a lot if you saw how she was in the 80s show. No disrespect to 80s Cheetara, but 2011 definitely got her a lot more fans. Yeah, so this is Cheetara. She's basically a magic cleric. She's a mage. She's a part of Jaga's ancient clerics. They protect the Book of Omens. She's the knowledgeable one on all the spiritual stuff, talking about magic, teaching it to Lino, acting as his bodyguard, and also the center of a love triangle, because if you see this cartoon, Cheetara is a perfect 11 out of 10. She is hot, she is cool, she's kick-ass. A lot of boys definitely watch the cartoon for her, and it's easy to see why. Cheetara is great, she's beautiful, she's sexy. Emanuela Cricri voices her. She was on Are You Afraid of the Dark and actually grew up to be one of the sexiest women alive, which is why she was casted for Cheetara. Kind of silly considering that she's voicing the character, but yeah, I think Cricri actually did a pretty good job. Cheetara Chitara is a speedster. She has the abilities of a cheetah. She runs very fast. She fights with a bow staff, which is also her cleric magic staff. She loses the staff like in the mid-season point and gains a completely new one, which can actually like use the power of nature because she's the magical one. I've seen this series. In fact, the Blockbuster Buster did a Legends of the Fandom where he explained Season 2, including a time skip for Leo. Yeah, we were gonna get to that. Fun fact, ThunderCats Roar got canceled because nobody liked it. That's honestly kind of common knowledge by this point. Emanuela Crickley played my top 20 waifu in American cartoons. Yeah, she was pretty great. Oh, and she was Invisible Woman in Robot Chicken. I'll have to listen for her again. Hisei Aoku and Vampire Princess Miui. Don't know what that is. Okay, so Chitara, in the first arc, she's kind of a mentor figure for Lionel. She is very clearly hands-on with him, very flirty with him, creating a love triangle. You see, Lionel loves her, but also his brother Tigra also digs her, and they both fight over her for the first half of the season. Tigra has had a crush on Chitara ever since they were kittens. We see in a flashback, they were kids. Chitara gets her origin shown in pretty good detail. We actually get to learn more about her here than we did in the 80s show. The 80s show was a lot slower on the character development for Lionel's friends and allies. Chitara here wanted to be a cleric all her life. She's abandoned. She was an orphan. She joined Jaga's covenant, I believe, becoming a magic priestess alongside him, and we find out she had a childhood crush on Tigra. Tigra cared about her. He definitely loved her. This was back before Tigra became a ladies' man Giga Chad. He was actually shy around her and had a huge crush on her. Actually helped her stay alive when she was protesting. Chitara wanted to join the clerics, but she lacked patience. She was just too fast. Yeah, obvious joke is obvious. Yeah, she had no patience and used her speed to get whatever she wanted and get to it quickly. The clerics needed to teach her patience, and they rejected her at first, but Chitara tried to prove herself, showing she had patience by camping outside of their monastery until they would let her in, and Tigra actually helped keep her alive by giving her a flower that had food that would allow her to live for days. And Chitara manages to prove herself. She survives and proves she does have patience, and Jaga at last lets her in where he raises and teaches her, finally giving her a family. She becomes a guardian of the magical artifacts up until the kingdom is invaded. Then she joins Lionel. She's like one of the only clerics who survived. All of her brothers and sister clerics are slaughtered, including Jaga, who dies a little later, but she is kind of the last magic wielder of her kind, making her very vital to the ThunderCats. She joins Lionel's party and get a love triangle. Tiger tries to woo her, Lionel tries to woo her. We don't get a full grasp on Chitara's feelings over the guys up until the end of the love triangle, which, yeah, is kind of a big glaring weakness because she kind of leads Lionel on, not gonna lie. That's why she didn't make my top 10 waifu list. I discovered that this Chitara fans were foot fetish fans because of her paw feet, which I found disturbing. Well, a lot of cat people usually don't wear shoes. They are uncomfortable. Also, I could see Chitara fight Cheetah, Jungle Fury Ranger, Lily in Power Rangers Jungle Fury, or, you know, Felicia from Darkstalkers. And she played Eve in National Lampoon's Adam and Eve. Yeah, I gotta watch that. Carly Newman in Wrong Turn 2003. Oh, she was in that. I didn't know that. And Numbers in Call of Duty Black Ops. Oh, she was in that too. Okay. Plus, her appearance is more feminine. A lot more than the ThunderCats Roar Cheetah. They made all the ThunderCats hideous, but Chitara definitely really hurt because she was everyone's favorite waifu. It really says a lot that she looked better in the 80s show than she does in the 2020 reboot. Yeah, Chitara definitely everyone's favorite waifu on this show. Her or Pumaira, who we'll get to soon enough. She spoilers, chooses Tigra. She falls in love with Tigra because she's always loved him. He was there for her since she was a child, basically. And Tigra is a Victoria's childhood friend romance. They hook up and kiss right in front of Lion-O. Yeah, Chitara unintentionally offending everyone around her. Yeah, she appears more feminine. I believe they tried to make her look like Emanuela as a Thundercat, and honestly, it really worked. She is very pretty. Like, what's the difference between her 2011 and 80s version of Cheetara? 80s version of Cheetara kind of covered up more. She wore basically a leotard, looked kind of like a Catwoman suit, basically. She still had her super speed, but there was a limit to it. She could only, like, run 2 miles with her super speed before she needed to, like, recharge and take a break. And she also had a sixth sense. Yeah, it's never explained, but in the 80s show, Cheetara had low-key a sixth sense. She had telepathy. She was telekinetic. This version implies that she was going to get those powers, but we never saw them come to fruition. Also, Cheetara in the 80s was more so not a love interest to Lion-O. A lot of people shipped Lion-O with her, but she was clearly not interested because Cheetara was an adult while Lion-O was a boy in a man's body. She hooks up with Tiger in the 80s show, but kind of like a last-minute hookup. They fall in love over the course of the series, compared to this show where they loved each other since kittenhood. She's not my waifu. Really, Anime Night. That's kind of surprising. She is not on my top 10, but she definitely is in the top 20. I do have a bonus video on that on Patreon. Check it out. Yeah, also her outfits are different in both the 2011 80s reboots. ThunderCats Roar basically turned Cheetah into a guy. They wanted to make her like a tomboy, and she looks like a dude. They gave her that god-awful haircut because women having long hair and looking feminine is apparently a major no-no in some circles, and yeah, that was just one of the many bad decisions for ThunderCats Roar. Like Oliver, my cat, doesn't know ThunderCats since he knows Between the Lines and Reading Cats in his words. Like if we get a ThunderCats anime, which actress could Cheetara be played by? Sydney Sweeney. Yeah, Sydney Sweeney definitely could play Cheetara. She does look like her, especially from the 2011 reboot. A bit debatable if she looks like her from the 80s version, but she could pretty much pull it off. I say Christina V or Lucy Hartfilia's actress. Oh, you mean in a new anime? Yeah, I think Christina V would be fine. I think Emanuela Criqui should reprise the role since she's still pretty young and still pretty sexy. But yeah. So, Cheetara chooses Tigra and basically becomes a supportive girlfriend towards Tigra, having him change for the better. He brings out a lot of mischief in her, and they become a cute battle couple. Unfortunately, Cheetara does get kind of sidelined once Pumaira enters the picture, because Pumaira is Lion-O's second love, but I really like her. She's awesome, she's hot, she's kick-ass, actually has a rather deep and profound backstory, and is kind of the heart of the team, which is something I really appreciate, especially nowadays, because female characters can't be motherly and nurturing without offending some idiot somewhere. So, Cheetara definitely going on to love. Love her as a waifu, and yes, I do in fact love her as a character. She was one of the best highlights of the show, and is actually going above the hero and the villain. Will she be outclassed? Maybe, but let's carry on. Like, imagine Daphne Blake cosplays as Cheetara. That could work, but Cheetara has blonde hair, Daphne has red hair. Daphne would probably look better as Pumaira anyway. Alright, so speaking of which, we gotta talk about a villain next. Let's knock off Mum-Ra's second-in-command, General Slythe, who, unfortunately, is going into whatever. Okay, so General Slythe is basically this big, fat, evil lizard general who has a racist grudge against the cats. The lizards were once a well-respected great warrior race until they fell from grace, and they blamed the cats for basically outclassing their empire. General Slythe holds a major grudge against the cats and wants them all exterminated. Allegedly, there was a deeper backstory being built up to around this guy, but the show got canceled before they could actually do it. General Slythe is basically the second-in-command of Mum-Ra's forces of evil. D. Bradley Baker voices him, and yeah, you could recognize him because he uses his his Ben 10 voices. I'm very certain I heard this voice on Ben 10. Yeah, D. Bradley Baker is half the animal characters on this show, which should surprise absolutely no one. Yeah, D. Bradley Baker played him. D. Bradley Baker was definitely everywhere back when this show was on the air. He was on ThunderCats. He was one of the main voice actors on Clone Wars. He was one of, the clones. He was also on SpongeBob. He was also on Avatar. D. Bradley Baker is like the master of unique animal voices, and General Slythe definitely was one of them. D. Bradley Baker delivers a great performance, which should shock none of you, but unfortunately, General Slythe ended up being a very whatever character. They were hinting at a deeper backstory to him. Slythe actually has some morals and standards, a code of honor, if you will, which the other villains don't have. General Slythe wants to save his people, and the lizards ally with Mum-Ra to basically rebuild their empire, but it becomes very clear that he's supposed to not be as evil as he is as next to his cohorts, basically. So the Frank Welker clone? Like cat like to chase lizards just like my cat brother Oliver? Exactly. Since they both do animal sounds. So Slythe implies there was a tragic backstory behind him. He was slighted and betrayed by the cats, which is why he's helping Mum-Ra overthrow them. He is there in the pilot. He hides in like a Trojan horse given to the cats. It's really all a ploy to allow the lizards to destroy the Thundera from within. Thundera is a kingdom in this version. It's not an entire planet. In the 80s cartoon, Slythe was basically an unsympathetic psycho warlord. Slythe was used as a fake-out villain. They pretend he's going to be the grand big bad in all this. He destroyed Thundera's entire planet because he wanted to steal the sword so he could conquer the galaxy. However, the ThunderCats managed to defeat him, ward him off, and overpower his people. Slythe and his people in the 80s cartoon were mutants. In this show, they're reimagined as basically a bunch of alien species who live together. Hey, what'd I miss? We're on General Slythe right now. You missed Lion-O, Mum-Ra, and Cheetara make it onto easy S tier. We're on Mum-Ra's right-hand man, Slythe. So, unfortunately, Slythe is basically an enforcer. He's a brute. He's the dumb muscle. He's the guy who backs Mum-Ra up. They teased that we were going to see more of him and more of his sad backstory, but it never came to fruition, and I suppose I should talk about it here. Slythe was going to be a morally gray character. We find out that the lizard species is dying. Their race is endangered, and he blames the cats for it because they were basically ostracized and kicked aside as unwelcome evildoers, and they live in like a swampland. Their species is endangered, and they teamed up with Mum-Ra because Mum-Ra is using his magic to help fix them. We find out General Linkso, a character who appeared in the pilot, was going to be behind the complete genocide of the lizard people. He was the one who tried to kill the lizards and run them out of the town, introducing a morally gray conflict, and Slythe was going to have a change of heart. He was going to realize Mum-Ra had no intentions of fulfilling their bargain, and that Linkso was going to die by his claws. Yeah, Slythe was going to obtain a kill in the second season. Linkso was supposed to be beheaded by General Slythe as retribution for what he did to his species, and when they find the final stone, the last one, the missing blue stone, whatever it was, Slythe was going to have a choice of giving it to his commander Mum-Ra or giving it to Lion-O. And Slythe would have a change of heart and die giving it to Lion-O to stop the cycle of hatred, to stop the racism between their species, and defeat Mum-Ra. And Slythe and his entire lizard race would die a heroic sacrifice, giving this gem back to Lion-O, and that was going to be the end of his story. He would actually be the first lizard who would be recognized as a hero even amongst the ThunderCats because Lion-O was reuniting the species. Unfortunately, this is why he's going on to whatever, because that did not happen. Yeah, it ended up not happening, and Slythe basically stayed as a supporting villain, which is why he's going on to whatever. You've seen ThunderCats, but worse, you've seen ThunderCats roar and regret doing so? Yes, I watched one episode and I was totally out. Yeah, it's the Teen Titans Go version of ThunderCats. That really sucked. Thank God Blundercat's Boar is not a part of this. Yeah, thankfully. That would all be F tier anyway. Since I was busy with homework and my landlord removed Cartoon Network, oh, that sucks. Okay, so Slythe ended up being sadly a whatever character. They did not do enough with him, and he was going to be a big deal second season, but unfortunately that didn't happen, cutting him short. Alright, next we should do another main cat. Let's do Tigra. So, Tigra was not one of my favorite ThunderCats when I rewatched the 80s show. I did not grow up on the 80s show, but my parents got me like all the DVDs. ThunderCats was like being sold at Target and Walmart, and I collected all of them because I love them. They were cool cat warriors. Tigra was my least favorite ThunderCat back in the 80s show. He wasn't bad, he was just boring. He was bland, dull, boring, and very uninteresting, and it felt like the show did not do enough with him. Tiger was often the damsel in distress. He'd get captured and saved by the fellow ThunderCats. Cheetara was the hot one, but she never got captured or was helpless, and Wily Kit was one of the funny kid characters. She would always tag along with her brother Wily Cat. So Tigra was kind of the one who often got captured and rescued by the ThunderCats. But the show gave him a complete turnaround and made him one of the best characters ever. Tigra, if my computer would load, is going on to love. Yeah, I actually ended up really enjoying Tigra. Tigra's voiced by Matthew Mercer, who you should all know as one of the greatest voice actors ever. He played Leon Kennedy on Resident Evil games, and was, unfortunately, Telltale's Mr. Freeze, and was Chance Sure Shot from Regular Show. Matthew Mercer actually did a pretty spectacular job as the Tiger Warrior. Thank God for you, at least you didn't see the Teen Titans Go marathons. Yep, that's Matthew Mercer. He played Emiya in Fate Zero, Kujo in JoJo's Bizarre Adventures, Yamato in Naruto. Oh, that was him? I thought that was Roger Craig Smith. And Trafalgar Law in One Piece. Never saw One Piece. And Yusuke Kitawa in Persona 5. Okay, so I ended up really surprised at how great the writing behind Tigra was. Tigra was initially my least favorite character, then this show, complete turnaround, total 180. Tigra is now one of the best characters of ThunderCats, and this show definitely made him a whole lot better. Tigra is the stepbrother to Lion-O. He's kind of an idiot bully at first, but slowly comes around to working and cooperating with his little bro Lion-O. Tigra is very much envious of Lion-O. Tigra was the first child. He was adopted by King Claudius and his wife. He was promised to be the king of Thundera. He was showered with love, support, and praise by everyone. Was raised as this great warrior. He was a kick-ass ThunderCat, and unfortunately, he felt slighted and cheated out of everything that was supposed to go to him the day Lion-O was born, and he's had a grudge against Lion-O, which has sadly not gone away, even though they're now adults. Still listing characters. Yeah, he was Anarchy in Batman Arkham Origins. So, Tigra was promised to be this great warrior, this great king, and Lion-O was born, and unfortunately, it took his crown away. His mom died in childbirth, and he blamed Lion-O for it. Claudius started treating him differently. Tigra had to work hard, train hard, be basically what's the term called? Like a self-made man, basically. Had to earn it, kind of became the Eric to Lion-O's Wes, and he grew up very bitter of Lion-O, always bullied him, always treated him like garbage, like kitty litter, and at one point even almost killed him, but he grew to love Lion-O in his own way, and it's very clear he likes to rub it in his face that he's the better one. Tigra is the ace. As he grows up, he becomes better at everything, to the point where the kingdom wants him to be leader. We find out it's actually him trying to upstage Lion-O. He grows jealous when Cheetara falls in love with Lion-O because he's always had feelings for her before Lion-O even met her, basically. Yeah, Lion-O meets Cheetara in the pilot of this show. Tigra knew her since they were kittens, and it's another thing that he sees as Lion-O taking away from him. So, the Sasuke of ThunderCats. kind of. They're both kind of like, they're both brothers. They have a love-hate relationship, a platonic one, just FYI. Yeah, sometimes he hates Lion-O, and sometimes he loves him. Tigra's always questioning Lion-O's authority, but slowly comes around to liking and respecting him. It's very clear that the brothers are trying to fix their relationship, and it's become even more stressful now that their entire race is now endangered. After they lose the kingdom, Tigra slowly matures, slowly grows to trust Lion-O. Very clear he does make good decisions and does call out Lion-O on his dumb moves. Tigra does care about their pack. However, Lion-O always sees Tigra as trying to upstage him and gets really sick and tired of the way he's always treating him as the useless baby brother, causing a lot of conflict throughout the series. Yeah, basically it's a story about two brothers from two different walks of life trying to salvage their family relationship. And according to season 2 rumors and plots, this was going to get tested even more as the show's time would move on. So Itachi, then Sasuke, almost. Oh, he was also Chucky's soul in Batman Bad Blood. Really weird. I love Matthew Mercer. He's a really good voice actor. I do like his performance as Tigra. It is kind of funny hearing Leon Kennedy come out of him from time to time. Tigra finds out that Lion-O is a good leader. He does start respecting his leadership. Lion-O is temporarily dead at one point, and Tigra takes over as the true king of the ThunderCats, then finds out he's not cut out to be the leader. In a similar vein to Leonardo and Raphael, Tigra is kind of the Raphael. He has anger problems, and he tries to be leader, finds out being leader is tougher than he thought, and the ThunderCats are pretty much a mess without Lion-O. Tigra is no Lion-O, and he figures that out very fast. He gladly hands back the leadership reins to Lion-O, and the two get along, burying the hatchet. However, it was going to be dug back up come season 2, when Tigra would end up killing Lion-O's love interest. More on that later, but Tigra, I think, is a really cool character. The show did a lot of great stuff with him, and made him one of the most important characters of the show, which is a lot more love than his 80s counterpart had. So Tigra going on to love. Alright, next we gotta knock out a villain. Let's do Groon. Yeah, we have the other right-hand man, or I should say the left-hand man, Groon, the evil ThunderCat, going on to very good. This is Groon. He was once a well-respected general who served the ThunderCats. He was best friends with the king, King Claudius, until he betrayed them all and sold out his entire race for power. Groon is actually a character from the 80s cartoon, which is why we are counting him. Groon was initially a one-shot character from the 80s show. He was also a treacherous ThunderCat, but he was more so Jaga's archenemy. Groon was basically a Freddy Krueger monster in the 80s cartoon. He existed in the astral plane and was the first villain Jaga ever fought. We find out his, ghost was still in there, and Jaga duels him once more. The 2011 reboot decided to give him a whole deeper origin story and make him a reoccurring villain. Groon sought ultimate power. He was once a great noble soldier. He was best friends with Panthro. He's voiced by Clancy Brown, by the way, and that is kind of obvious because you can really hear the Mr. Krabs in his voice. Clancy Brown always voiced the evil brute in these 80s reboots, didn't he? Yep, Clancy Brown plays him, and I really like him. I hope we get Steve Blum or Clifford Chapin, Bakugo actor, as Tigra if we get an anime. Steve Blum, I fear, might be too old now. Matthew Mercer probably could still do the voice, since it's kind of his regular voice. Okay, Groon was best friends with Panthro. They both served in the army together, both made high achievements and made high status and high ranking to the point of sitting at Claudius's round table. The king really loved and respected them both. However, deep down, Groon was completely deranged. He was paranoid, egotistical, arrogant, and had this deranged suspicion that the king was envious of him, saw him as a threat to his crown. Claudius wanted to become king of Thundera, Dara and was trying to prove himself. However, King Claudius sends him on basically a fetch quest that would take years, finding the Book of Omens, and Grun saw this as a completely delusional take that the king was trying to get rid of him, sending him on a wild goose chase, finding something that he was sure didn't exist. And this caused Grun to be corrupted by Mum-Ra. Mum-Ra calls to him, feeling the evil deep within his soul. Grun hears Mum-Ra calling to him, and they end up finding Mum-Ra's tomb. And basically the entire series is all this guy's fault. Grun opens up the sarcophagus, breaking it open, and Mum-Ra promises him ultimate power for saving him, and Grun willingly becomes his right-hand man. If he can't win the crown through, regular means, he's going to take it by force. Yeah, Grun is a power-hungry psychopath, and even betrays his best friend Panthro. Panthro is believed to be killed off. Spoilers, he is alive because, of course, he's a major Thundercat. Grun tried to murder him, and they basically become rivals throughout the first half of the series. Grun and Panthro are basically best friends turned enemies, and their rivalry is a reoccurring thing all the way up to his final fight. Mr. Sinister and Wolverine and the X-Men, yeah, that was him. He was also Octopin Leader in the Little Mermaid TV show, Colonel Nicola the Entity, also Lex Luthor in the DCAU. And he was Razar / Dog Pound from TMNT, and Silas from Transformers Prime. Yeah, Clancy Brown definitely has range. He's very good at playing the Brute. However, I think he's much better here on ThunderCats than he is on TMNT, because Grun is a completely deranged psycho, has a lot more variety of emotions. Sometimes he's smug, sometimes he's crazy, and sometimes he can do comedically angry very well. Grun is trying to do Mum-Ra's bidding, acting as his right-hand man. This is his villain armor. He ends up betraying his king, ultimately getting him killed. Mum-Ra trusts him a lot more than General Slythe. However, it turns out Grun is a total Starscream. When Mum-Ra enters the astral plane and leaves Grun in charge, Grun convinces Slythe that maybe we should betray Mum-Ra and leave him stranded there. Yep, Grun is also a Starscream character. He decides he's going to betray Mum-Ra and seize command of the army and stone himself, deciding to leave Mum-Ra stranded in the astral plane, and this ultimately leads to his downfall. Grun fights Panthro for the final time with their bare hands, mano a mano, and Panthro wins. How? Panthro pushes Grun into the astral plane. After Lino gets the astral stone, the portal and dimension collapses in on itself, and now there's a time limit. They have to get out of the portal before the dimension is dust. Mum-Ra escapes. Lino and Tigra make it out. However, Panthro decides to end Grun once and for all by pushing him into the collapsing dimension, sacrificing his arms in the process like a total boss. And Grun is killed. He's trapped in the astral plane. Panthro loses his arms just to throw him in there, getting rid of the evil general for good. Now, if you know about all the plans for Season 2, we're going to see Grun return. This was actually going to be the origin of how he gets his 80s counterpart's powers. You see, Grun was a spiritual monster in the 80s show, and basically by dying in the astral plane, Grun was going to become corrupted into an evil spirit. Grun was going to return in the form of his evil Freddy Krueger boogeyman self, have Panthro's arms still strangling him like a monster, and become this deformed, warped version of Grun. Clancy Brown would be back. Grun would be trying to get revenge once more and try to steal the final stone. Unfortunately, these plans never happened because the show was canceled. To hear his Dio Brandau or Scorpion voice. Do you see Patrick Seitz could play Grun in the ThunderCats anime? Honestly, yeah, that could work. Or Richard Epcar. Epcar definitely does the evil bruiser voice very well. So, I actually did like Grun as a villain. Unfortunately, he's killed off halfway through, and his great epic return story never happened. Because, yeah, sadly, Cartoon Network is run by idiots. But Grun, I will put on a very good. I wanted to see more of him. I think this is like one of Clancy Brown's best performances. Grun was a kick-ass villain. Unfortunately, he would be outclassed by the new generals, but we'll put him on to A tier. Very good. Now we have to do a hero. I think we should do the last adult Thundercat, Panthro. Yeah, one of my favorite Thundercats. This is Panthro, the big guy of the team, voiced by Kevin Michael Richardson. Panthro also going on to love. Yeah, Panthro was one of my favorite Thundercats. He was cool in the 80s show, and wouldn't you know, he's also cool in this cartoon. Kevin Michael Richardson voices him because Richardson was in a lot of these 80s reboots. Yeah, Kevin Michael Richardson was Roadblock in G.I. Joe, Bulkhead in Transformers Prime, the Shredder in TMNT 2012, and wouldn't you know it, he even made it onto ThunderCats as Panthro. Panthro is the big guy, the tough dude, the old soldier, the mechanic, the hard worker, the snarky one. Panthro is awesome. He's cool. He's totally jacked. He is basically a veteran soldier who joins up with the ThunderCats later in the beginning of the series. Yeah, so we're kind of duped into believing Panthro died. Panthro is declared dead when Grun returns. Then he shows up alive, held hostage, but spoilers, it wasn't actually him. It was Mum-Ra in disguise being used as bait to kill the king. Panthro is believed to be dead until episodes later where we find out, nope, he's still alive and driving that kick-ass thunder tank. Kevin Michael Richardson played Panthro. Yep, he's really awesome. And yeah, I like him. He's cool. He's badass. He is a veteran Thundercat, kind of a cross between Bulkhead and Ratchet, because he's a badass big guy who bruises stuff, likes to fight. However, also a bit of Ratchet because he's also the cranky old man. Panthro is very much older than the rest of the Thundercats, but that's kind of made him very well-rounded and unique. He has like scars all over him, and he's very proud of his war veteran history. He drives that cool thunder tank, really badass in battle. The lizards cower in fear around him, and he shows like no fear. Panthro does get some comedic moments later, like the kids always screw with him. He shows emotion. Panthro's weakness is he's afraid of heights, which, yeah, kind of makes sense considering how high they go up. I could see Chris Sabat as Panthro to have some All Might voice if we got an anime. Kind of iffy on that one. I think Killer Bee's voice actor might be more fitting. Panthro has always been, like, coded as the tough black guy, which, yeah, actually kind of made him funnier. Yeah, Panthro loses his arms halfway in the series. He kills Grun by throwing him in the portal, but at the cost of both his arms. Like, his whole arms come off, like right at the shoulder blades is where they end, and the Robo Bear Bulls rebuild him new arms. He gets like these cybernetic robot claws, which are pretty cool, pretty badass. I am very certain they were gonna have a story arc where Panthro would get his original arms back, because Grun would return once more, but yeah, sadly, Season 2 didn't happen. Panthro is awesome. He's like the grouchy uncle of the team. He's funny, he's cool, he kicks butt, he fixes and builds all their machines. He's very much a knowledgeable soldier. He basically knows a lot of war tactics, how the villains think, and he slowly but surely grows a newfound respect for his new teammates, treating them less as soldiers as the show goes on and more like family. Panther's actor played Max in Scooby-Doo and the Alien Invaders. Yeah, that was him. Okay, so Panther I'm going to put on to love. I loved him in the 80s show, and the anime tune definitely did him justice. He is one of the best characters ever. Alright, so next we should do a villain. Let's do Knar, the Jackal Man. Knar is pretty much the Joker. And I'm going to put him on to love because he is pretty funny. So this is actually one of the original 80s villains. General Slythe was accompanied by two of his side commanders, the Jackal Man and Monkeyan. And surprisingly, they do return in this reboot. Jackal Man and Monkeyan were kind of bumbling doofus minions. They were basically the dumb, stupid guys that did all the heavy lifting. Monkeyan actually did grow as a character in the 80s show, but Jackalman, pretty much a bumbler. They were kind of these two incompetent villains, but in this show, they got reinvented as ultra horrifying psychopaths. Yeah, D. Bradley Baker also voices him, and he's basically the Joker. He's the Joker. He's this evil, cackling sadist who loves killing and causing chaos. Jackalman is springed from prison. We find out the reboot renamed him Kanar to give him more of an identity, since they were like just named after their races. Yeah, Kanar is sprung from prison, and he's like this evil knockoff Joker. He laughs, he tells jokes, likes to make a lot of dark threats, and casually murders a lot of people. D. Bradley Baker is pretty much just doing his Joker voice as this character, but that's what kind of makes him very fun and entertaining. He also likes to kill people. As soon as he's freed, he decides to murder the prison guards for no reason, just to show you he's a psycho, and basically that's his entire character. He's a bloodthirsty psychopath and a million times scarier than his 80s counterpart. He likes to fight, he likes to kill, he joins up because he wants to eat the ThunderCats. Like General Sly tells him, would you join us to see some cats? Ooh, I like cats. I like them a lot. And yeah, he wants to like eat the ThunderCats. He is very much into eating blood, along with the monkey, and they're both kind of cannibals. Like, we need Mark Hamill to play Kanar to have the Joker voice and laugh in the ThunderCats anime. Wow. Yeah, basically, these two guys, Jackalman, I guess we'll also put on Monkeyan. I forgot what his name was. Yeah, Monkeyan. Go from comedic villains into these really terrifying psychopaths. Yeah, we'll also talk about Monkeyan. He's also the partner in crime to Kanar. Monkeyan is a cannibal barbarian. He's a big brute, but he also likes to eat people, and at one point when they free him from prison, he eats his executioners. The bird people are like about to execute him by throwing him over a cliff and falling to his death, but the lizards break him out and free him, and he decides, well, I'll come with you, but one thing, I'm owed a last meal. And he eats the bird people. Yeah, these aren't just animals, these are like humanoid bird people. He eats them. He and Kanar eat people. They are cannibal psychopaths. This is like Dinobot eating his clone. Yeah. A family picture. Exactly, Akira. Yeah. It is very mind-blowing. This guy, Kanar and the Monkeyan, they were comic relief villains in their show. Like total Power Ranger villains. They were played for laughs, total bumblers, always screwed up, and needed General Sly to tell them what to do. In this show, they are like total horror monsters. They like killing, they like fighting, they fight dirty all the time against the ThunderCats, and they basically join because they want to eat the ThunderCats. At one point, the Monkeyan is like considering eating the children, and they also like joke about casually murder all the time. Like, come on, will Mum-Ra really miss one of the kittens? Yeah, they don't need to be all alive, right? And yeah, it's really dark stuff. That's why I kind of like them. Unfortunately, the Monkeyan gets less character. They gave a lot of spotlight to Kanar because, again, he's kind of just the Joker of the show. Like, he is the Joker. Like, let's not lie, he's just the Joker. He got a lot more focus, a lot of funny lines. Monkeyan was pretty cool. They implied they were going to give him more to do. Like, he was going to replace General Sly and betray him, like, gun for his job. Unfortunately, the show got canceled. Yeah, so that went nowhere, which is why he goes down a level. But yeah, Jackalman, pretty vicious too. These guys were really creepy brutes and definitely did their counterparts justice and then some. Wow, the cat is reviewing ThunderCats. Yep, Monica. Sorry, we're not doing Brother Bear. Atticus, thank you. Atticus is the monkey guy's name. Yeah, I forget his name. I know they say Kanar a lot because they're always telling him to knock it off when he's thinking about eating their prisoners of war. Atticus, the lizard army will know there are consequences for betraying Mum-Ra. Yeah, Atticus is much more of a standard barbarian, but what made him creepy is that he also eats people. Both these guys like to eat people, which made them more horrifying. Unlike the 80s version, Atticus has proven to be quite clever and resourceful, able to defeat Chitara with relative ease. Yeah, and also, Kanar can also sniff out Tigra. I forgot to mention, Tigra has the ability to cloak himself. He can turn invisible temporarily, but the Jackal can sniff him out. The monkey is also just as fast as Chitara, fights with like this swinging monkey fist type of battle style, and he's able to outmaneuver Chitara the speedster. So yeah, these two guys are legit villain threats. Also, you caught me in the middle of making my Venom story. Oh, you are writing the Venom story. Okay, no problem, Monica. Sorry to distract you. Want to do a short tier list because I might be away reviewing something. Alright, since we talked about the Terror Twins, we should talk about the Hero Twins, Wily Kit and Wily Cat. Ready? Ho! Just catch up on some water. Alright, Wily Cat will do first, who, unfortunately, I have to put on the end of Love. Yeah, should I put him on Very Good? Now I'll put him on to Love. And we'll also talk about Wily Kit, who I will absolutely put on to Love, because I really enjoyed her. These are the Thunder Kittens, the child soldiers of the ThunderCats. Now, in the 80s show, Wily Kit and Wily Cat were actually teenagers. They are a lot older than their child counterparts on here. They were still younger than the other ThunderCats, but also barely older than when Lino was. They were teenagers in the 80s show, the mischievous troublemakers. They had all these magic pellets that can do anything, that can turn into specific attacks they needed, get into a lot of the light-hearted, childish adventures, and they were also pretty badass for teen soldiers. The anime reboot reimagined them as a lot younger. They are street urchins. They live on the mean streets, the slums of Thundera. They are professional pickpockets and thieves, and actually have a lot more personality in this show than they did in the original. Here they are full-blown troublemakers, always causing mischief, always being funny, always being cute and adorable, and I did really like them. At least the kittens sound like children, unlike the 80s. They were going through puberty, Monica. Madeline Hall played Wily Kit. She was Kim in the movie Bones and All. Never saw it. Okay, so these guys actually get a more profound backstory here. Wily Kit and Wily Cat actually did have a loving home. They lived on a farm. However, a twister happened, the Dust Bowl happened in this world, and it killed their dad. Their dad died in a twister. Their mom now became a single parent running the farm and raising 4 children. They also have another brother and sister set of twins. Wily Kit and Wily Cat hear of a story about a mythical city of gold called Eldara. Yes, this is El Dorado in the ThunderCat show. Eldara is a magical place where happiness is supreme and it's made of gold and has all your dreams come true. The kittens decide they want to go there. They run away to go to Eldara and get enough riches to help their family save the farm. Their mom is kind of struggling. Their crops are dying. They're pretty much falling apart without a man holding up the family. So Wily Kit and Wily Cat go out, then quickly fall into hard times. They are orphans. They have nowhere to go. They're living on and sleeping on the streets and are forced into being pickpockets because the world sees them as evil. They accidentally find a guy's wallet, get falsely accused, and decide they need to steal money and food in order to survive. Really tragic and depressing backstory, but that doesn't stop them and their chipper cheeriness. Well, their parents get around, lol. Yeah, the dad was pretty cool, though, so I could probably see what the mom sees in him. Iman Pirosello played Wily Cat. Okay, so I do like that they gave them a really cool weapons to separate them. They don't have their magic pellets they had in the 80s tune. Wily Cat has this grappling hook claw. It's like a cat claw he can throw up and grapple onto stuff like Catwoman. Wily Kit has a magical flute. She's a musician, battler. She uses this magical flute to mesmerize people. Do low-key magic tricks that can mesmerize enemies, control people, and make them forget things that just happen. We see her use this on some guy trying to stop them from stealing, and it also works on lizards because the lizards freeze stays in place when she plays it. Yeah, Wily Kit has this ocarina thing, and it's really cool. We find out the song she's playing is also the lullaby their parents used to tell them. So Wily Kid and Wily Cat believe this El Dorado place is real, and that's what they're trying to find. They're trying to find it, they're trying to raise enough money, they're staying alive, stealing money, stealing food, breaking into buildings basically to occupy, until they find this magic city. This all changes when the Kingdom of Thundera falls apart. After it's destroyed, the kittens basically recruit themselves onto Lion-O's ThunderCat team. They find out their king is still alive and he's trying to save their people, and they decide to quote-unquote hitch a ride with them. They team up. It's like, we're not following you, you're just walking in front of us. And yeah, basically they join the team, but they're not saying that they're actual team members. They become the quirky tag-along kids sidekicks, and they are very funny. They get more character as it goes on. Wily Cat starts taking the war more seriously, and Wily Kit gets basically a low-key crush on Lion-O, and unfortunately, this was going to go somewhere. I'll get to that soon, but yeah. Wily Kit has like a crush on Lion-O, a crush on the elephants. Wily Kit is a lot more boy crazy in this show. I remember they also have dogs in the show. Is there a rivalry between the dogs and the cats in this universe? Yeah, there is. There are dog people. The dogs are kind of the Middle East of this show. Yeah, the ThunderCats are clearly the Americans. The dogs are the Middle Easterns. They live in a desert, live with like sheiks and those veil things you wear on. Wily Kit's assumed first kiss was that frog creature, which Wily Cat dared her to do. Yeah, they get a lot of comic relief moments. The kittens actually have the most tragic backstory and tragic motive. However, they are the cute comic relief characters. I was actually scared I was not gonna like how they were in the reboot, but the first episode alone quickly won me over. I think they are so cool. They're so adorable. Basically like Selena Kyle from Gotham. These sharp-witted pro thieves. They know the evilness of the underbelly of the world. However, they also have a heart in them. They grow a sense of morals the more they live with the ThunderCats, basically. They start shaping up into better, noble heroes like they are in the 80s show. Yeah, their parents did get around. Flink is it's a Flink. That's Wily Cat's weapon. Thank you, Akira. Yeah, Wily Kit got her first kiss and it was on a frog. Yeah, Wily Cat dared her to do it. Yeah, Wily Kit is kind of boy crazy in this show. Yeah, Wily Cat can use his Flink as a musical instrument. Oh yeah, he uses it like as strings by strumming it like a string instrument. Yeah, such as a guitar or an uproar battle. Yeah, the kids basically get into a lot of the world building of the show. We meet a lot of wacky characters, and the kittens are basically the ones who endure all the exposition telling you about the world, which is very, very cool. I like the child actors. They're very talented, actually funny, actually adorable, and do these characters great justice. I liked them in the 80s show, and I still like them in this reboot. They were just that well written. Because Kit and Kat have met the dogs in this show. Yeah, they have. They were almost arrested by them. They, like, meet this Sly Cooper thief. He mentors them. Then he betrays them. They get into scraps with the dogs. They almost get hunted down by a lot of animals. There are surprisingly a lot of villains who want to eat these two adorable kittens. Yeah, I know it's to show you how evil they are, but it's kind of funny that eating other animal people is kind of a normal crime in this universe. Could Christina V and Justin Briner, Deku from My Hero Academia, play Wily Kit and Wily Cat in a ThunderCats anime? I think they could. Is there a wolf in ThunderCats or not? No, sadly not. They did not get around to introducing the wolf character. Since I wanted to predict it if we get an anime adaptation. Yeah, no wolf character. Of course, they're cute. You can't resist those big, cute eyes. They are kittens, after all. Also, weirdly, the only cats who have tails. Yet none of the other characters have tails. Lion-O, Chitara, Tiger, and Panthro, they don't have tails. The kittens apparently do, which is always kind of weird. I guess because they're a different breed slash race of cats, they actually have those big puffy tails to make them look cuter. Or, you know, they didn't want to ruin the sexiness of Cheetara, Tigra, and Lino by having big ass tails sticking out. Well, I wish we got a tuxedo cat in ThunderCats. We almost got a snow leopard, but that never happened. So, it becomes very clear that the Thunder Kittens grow to love the other Thundercats as family. They start out as jerks. They're still trying to hunt down Eldara to get that money to save their family, though. I think the family might be dead by this point because the kingdom was destroyed, but yeah, they still travel with them, and they were supposed to get a story arc of choosing their family or choosing Eldara. That unfortunately never happened because Cartoon Network's stupid. And there's one more thing I do have to talk about. So, they do join up with the ThunderCats and become their great friends. And allegedly, there was going to be a time skip finale to the ThunderCats saga. And leading to the most controversial thing that the show staff talked about. Alright, so no joke, no kitten. Lion-O was supposed to end up with Wily Kit. Yes, for reals, Wily Kit was going to hook up with Lion-O and become his queen in the finale. Wily Kit has a cute childish crush on Lion-O, and this was actually setting up a plot point where the two would hook up and become a couple in a time skip season. Maybe they lose the tails when they hit puberty, lol. Is Genyo there? You mean Jaga? He's on here. Okay, so, yeah. Wily Kit and Lion-O were supposed to end up together. Don't worry, they were gonna hook her up when she was legal, but a lot of people felt very divided over this decision. And rightfully so, because it's kind of weird, gross, and uncomfortable. Lion-O in this show is clearly an adult, and Wily Kit looks like she's like 7 years old, so a lot of people were really squicked out and grossed out, because it is very creepy. I don't want to say the age gap is too huge, but he knew Wily Kit since she was a little girl and grew up alongside her. It is so weird and creepy watching this show knowing that Lion-O and Wily Kit were going to bonk one day and become a couple. Like how there was going to be a time skip, Wily Kit would be a full-blown adult, Lion-O would be, I guess like 30 or 40 years old by this time. He would be an adult man, and Wily Kit would realize her feelings for him, and Lion-O would find love in her because Wily Kit has been the only girl who supported Lion-O all throughout the show. Yeah, this is why Wily Kit's crush was a plot point. She supports Lion-O, has faith in him, views him as a great man, a great hero, a great leader in the making. Wily Kit is always playing around with Lion-O, supporting him. When Lion-O is believed to be dead, Wily Kit has faith that he's still out there. She's like leaving markings for Lion-O to find and save them. And yeah, this is going to have payoff. Wily Kit would end up with Lion-O in the future. She would become his queen. Lion-O realized that he didn't notice the girl of his dreams was right here all along because Wily Kit always had faith in him, always supported him, and was pretty much the most loyal girlfriend of the series. He would fall for Cheetara, she chose Tigra. He fell for Palmyra, but dark twist ending happened. And then he would realize that Wily Kit was the one. It was going to be in a time skip. Wily Kit would be a legal adult, but that did not at all subtract the creepiness of this idea. What? She's underage. Why? Why? Even if she will be legal, there's still an age gap. Yeah, that's exactly the problem. So I don't have a problem with the age gap. I have a problem with literally everything else. That he knew her since she was a minor. It's like so creepy that he grew up with her. She was kind of a sister, and they want to ship them together. Yeah. Yeah, Wily Kit would become his queen, and Wily Kit would help her family basically out of their financial troubles, and they were destined to be together, but it's a girl he grew up alongside of. That's where the creepiness comes in. She would be legal by this time, but Lino would still be much older than her. I think like Chitara was at least around Lino's age, but yeah, a lot of people were grossed out. It's very vomit inducing. If it was a girl he did not grow up alongside, I think some of the grossness would be diminished, but yeah, it's practically his sister. It's a girl he knew since she was an 8-year-old minor, and the fact that they would hit it off, and not only that, they'd have a child together, did not win over fans. Yeah, there's some who are happy it got canceled. Hey, Cat. Hey, Light Jones. Also, Panthera was the second in command of Leo. Yeah, that was her. She looked like Crystal from Star Fox Assault. Like, why not Chitara? Exactly. Chitara is at least closer to Lino's age. It's implied Chitara's older because she's dating his brother, who's like in his late 20s, early 30s, but yeah. Why can't they make another sexy OC for him? Yeah, it would have been more clever if either they save Pumaira or Panthera, or Panthera's like great distant ancestor would show up in the series and be his newfound love. He like fall in love with the same girl that his ancestor fell in love with. Kind of a history repeats itself kind of idea, but no, Wily Kit was endgame. Let that sink in, folks. Wily Kit was going to be the endgame for Lino's romantic pursuits. This did not bode well, and honestly, I do not think this idea would have worked, even in a show as great as ThunderCats. People would have been really grossed out, especially because he knew her since she was like under 10. Like, why ThunderCats 2011? Why? Yeah, I'm not making this up either. This isn't Cat trying to give you shock laughs. This was actually an idea. The writers mentioned this. Check out, like, TV tropes. There were, like, tons of interviews telling you what was supposed to happen in future seasons and how they would have ended the show. Wily Kit was endgame, comes up in all of them. Yeah, unfortunately, that is kind of the one great negative about the show, but it kind of makes me glad it got canceled now. But Wily Kid and Wily Cat, they're S-tier characters. I like them. I enjoy them. They are funny. They're endearing. They're entertaining. If their story arc did originally happen, I think they would have been lower, but yeah. As is, I'm still putting them onto S-tier. We should also get the last main ThunderCat out of the way, Snarf! And good news, folks, you remember how Snarf was the worst character of the 80s show? Well, this reboot actually fixed him. How? He doesn't talk. Yeah, Snarf doesn't talk in this show, so now we're gonna put him on to good. Okay, so Snarf's an okay character. I don't really love him, but also don't hate him all that much. Snarf is voiced by Pikachu's voice actress from Pokemon. Not sure why they even got her. It's not like she really says anything. Snarf does not talk in this reboot, and there's actually some fans who are split over this decision because Snarf was like a full-on intelligent character. Here, he's just Lino's pet. He's like a cute, adorable team mascot like their Scooby-Doo. I thought this is ThunderCats, not Game of Thrones. The ThunderCats have thrones. Like this is a remake so good with the bad ending because the cancellation. Satami Korogi played Snarf. Yeah, that's her. The girl who dubbed Pikachu on Pokemon plays Snarf. And doesn't really say anything, goes, Snarf, Snarf, Snarf. Yeah, it basically still says Snarf, but that's really it. They took away Snarf's ability to speak in this reboot, and that actually made Snarf a lot more tolerable because Snarf was annoying as hell in the old show. Yeah, I actually kind of like Snarf. He's basically a cute team pet. Snarf was actually going to get a story arc in the second season where we'd find out Snarf was an experimental creature from like a Resident Evil lab. Apparently, Mumra designed the Snarfs to be these evil, grotesque creatures to use in his demon army, and Snarf here was a prototype. We were going to find out Snarf's backstory and how he was adopted by Lino because this is the only Snarf we ever see in the show. Unfortunately, that didn't happen, and Snarf is kind of a comic relief pet, often hanging out with Wily Kit and Wily Cat, kind of the Pikachu of the show, but more useless. I'm gonna put Snarf onto good. Much better than I should say, his 80s counterpart, but also a non-character in this show, going on to good. They made him the cute little mascot, so I actually want to pet him. Yeah, they sold a lot of toys of Snarf, too. He had, like, stuffed animals because everyone wanted to own this cute little guy. She played Arnold Perelstein in the Magic School Bus Japanese dub. Oh, she did. Okay. Also, my sister didn't come in the stream. Guess she's not a fan of ThunderCats. Alright, let's bump off our last villain, Vulture Man. Now, Voltaire. Yes, the show actually did eventually get around to including the Vulture Man, the last villain in Mum-Ra's inner circle. Now he's named Voltaire. He is the king of Cloud City, the leader of the bird people, and also an egotistical, diabolical bastard. Voltaire actually going on to very good. The only reason he's not S tier is because he was only in the finale. He's in the last 2 episodes. He was going to become a major villain next season, but as you know, got canceled. Okay, so the ThunderCats find out the next stone, the Tech Stone, is actually in the Bird Kingdom, and they meet with Voltaire. Voltaire, very much a douche. He's a smug, arrogant, kind of Arkham-verse Riddler. He reminds me of the Riddler. He's arrogant, he's rude, he's condescending, always talking about how much better the birds are. Very racist. He looks down upon everyone, especially the cats. Like, oh, the cats finally made it to the sky. Bet you must be very proud being a credit to your species. Oh, a cat without manners. Imagine that. You cat people are barbarians compared to us. Yeah, he's that kind of character. He's a douche. He's arrogant. He's weaselly. But that's what kind of made him fun and you love to hate him. Vulture Man was actually the evil genius of the original 80s villains. He was a part of Mum-Ra's inner circle. In the 80s show, Voltaire was the mad scientist. He was the inventor. He created all their weapons, their high-tech stuff, evil schemes that Mum-Ra would use. Basically, kind of this arrogant, evil genius, mad scientist character, and I really liked him because he would always call out the stupidity of his teammates, kind of be the snarky, punch clock villain type. The reboot reimagined him as this arrogant, smug snake. He thinks he's above it all. He literally soars above everyone, looks down on those lesser light forms because he believes the birds are the superior race. He has the Tech Stone at first because the Tech Stone is actually being used as a power source for his Cloud City. The Bird Kingdom is literally this Hyrule temple in the sky. It's a Cloud City the ThunderCats go to. Voltaire does not want to give them the stone, acting like a condescending douche, but we find out there's a reason why, because the stone is keeping their society alive. And at no point does he ever explain this because, again, douchebag. I would like to see Chima become a TV series, but without the Lego stuff. Viragor, played by Hector Elizondo, who played Bane in Batman Rise of the Sinzu, and he was also in the Batwoman movie. I would like to see Chima before a TV... Alright, that one. Do it for the Furries Cartoon Network. Also, Dr. Gutierrez and What's New Scooby-Doo 3D Destruction. I actually kind of like Voltaire because he reminds me so much of Arkhamverse Riddler. He's arrogant, he's smug, but you kind of love to hate him because he's also kind of funny. So, what makes Voltaire this high is he actually does get a character arc. He starts out as this corrupt king, then when Mum-Ra's forces invade, he reluctantly teams up with the ThunderCats, realizing he needs people to defend his fortress. Mum-Ra's forces pretty much break through the Bird Kingdom easily, decimate their armies, and Voltaire decides he wants to team up with Mum-Ra. He's impressed by Mum-Ra's power, realizes he's not strong enough, and he completely backstabs and betrays his people, becoming the new Groon. He sells out the bird people, helps them, and takes out Tigra. I have a lock. What a coincidence. So do I. And he shoots Tigra out of the sky in their Star Wars battle. Yeah, Voltaire, honestly, this line also makes me laugh. Voltaire, you betrayed us? What can I say? I'm a politician. Yeah, that made me laugh so hard. Yeah, Voltaire completely throws his entire people under the bus. He is a complete hypocrite. Decides he wants to join Mum-Ra's forces for the magnificent power. And yeah, apparently they let him in. They work with him. He decides he's handing over Cloud City to Mum-Ra, leading to the final fight. Voltaire is finally put in his place by Tigra. Tigra beats him up when the tables turn. They unfortunately let him live because if you know the show, Voltaire would become a member of Mum-Ra's inner circle. That's kind of why he's not S tier, because the finale is his last appearance and also his first one. So guys, how's the weather? Because in my state it's very hot. It's hot here too, trying to stay cool. So yeah, I ended up really liking this villain more than anyone else. I liked him in the 80s cartoon, and I think the reboot actually did a great job having him. Would have looked forward to seeing how he would be done for the next season, especially because he is a vital member of the villain team, but unfortunately that never happened, but I'll put him on to very good. He was definitely interesting. I feel like I'm in the oven. Yeah, me too. Alright, final four. I know who you all want me to talk about, but I think we should save her for last. Let's do Linkso. And tragically, Linkso, the blind Thundercat, has to go on to whatever. I know I'm gonna piss a lot of people off because Linkso was so cool in the 80s show. However, he's just a cameo here. Yeah, not much to go into. Linkso is downgraded to a cameo. He was going to return in the second season, revealed to be alive, and given a grand story arc. He's the rival to General Slythe, but never went anywhere. Linkso shows up in the pilot, basically. He's a blind warrior. In the 80s show, he lost his vision while trying to evacuate their dying planet. Some dust and fire got into his eye, which blinded him. I'm not sure if that would be the same story that would happen here in the anime reboot, but yeah, he's already blind when we meet him. He's able to smell his enemies out. He has daredevil skills. Linkso is an elite general who's in charge of defending the kingdom. Unfortunately, he fails because the kingdom was destroyed. I wish there are bear people in ThunderCats. I would be the smallest one among them because I'm 5'1". Oh, good news, Monica Bear. In the ThunderCats, there are bear people, the robot bears, the Row-Bear Bills. Yeah, that's their name. They're cybernetic teddy bears. You might like them. Like, look them up. They are pretty cute. Look up the ThunderCats cybernetic teddy bears. I feel like I'm in the oven. Yeah, me too. Okay. The one regret of this series is not making Snarf talk. Really, Anime Night, you wanted him to talk. That, like not making Cringer from He-Man not a coward, or making Yes Man from Silverhawks into a lackey. Well, Cringer also didn't talk in the He-Man reboot, and nobody complained then. Okay, so Linkso is a big deal in the 80s show. He was going to become a new teammate in this cartoon. Linkso would be revealed to have survived the fall of their kingdom. They lost to Mum-Ra's forces, and Linkso became a wandering nomad. He was going to be General Slythe's arch nemesis. We find out Linkso's still alive. He's out there. The ThunderCats recruit him. He was a major teammate in the 80s show, and they were going to pretend he was going to be a vital character here. Linkso would reveal that he was behind the genocide of the lizard people. Linkso became general because he did a dirty job for the government. He completely genocided the lizard people, sabotaged their eggs, basically, and made them sterile, destroyed their people, which is why Slythe hates the cats. He believes the cats tried to exterminate his race, and Linkso was the bad guy behind this. Linkso would be sort of a twist villain. He was actually an evil, corrupt general who got his position because he did what the king didn't have the stones to do. He exterminated their enemies, and General Slythe was going to battle him. Allegedly, he was going to get beheaded by General Slythe. Yeah, this guy was going to get beheaded. They would have a final fight, and Sly would realize that the cats weren't all evil. It was just this guy, and he would have his redemption arc where he would befriend Lino and give him back the Infinity Stones they were hunting. Linkso as a bad guy would have been interesting, but unfortunately that was planned for season 2, which didn't happen, so he ended up kind of being just a cameo. We have to put him onto whatever. Sorry, my Linkso fans, but he's kind of just a non-character in this show. Yay, I'm a teddy bear. I must go to my people. Okay, Linkso looks so cool. Yeah, he does. Like, why is he called Linkso? Because he's supposed to be a lynx. That's a cat breed. The Infinity Stones. Unfortunately, I brought him up because Linkso is a major character in the 80s show. He's the handicap member. He's a blind warrior, but he can still fight. He can still calculate, and he's still useful to the ThunderCats in the 80s show. It would have been interesting to see him come back. Kevin Michael Richardson voices him for like 5 seconds, but that's kind of it. Yeah, we'll put him on whatever. Speaking of which, we also have to do King Claudius. This is Lino and Tigra's dad, the former king of Thundera. And Claudius, I'm afraid I have to put him on to good. Okay, so Claudius, believe it or not, is voiced by the OG Lionel, Larry O'Kinney or something like that. Larry O'Kinney, Lenny O'Kinney, the guy who voices the Cocoa Buffs bird. Yeah, he's voiced by the 80s Lino, playing a character passing on the torch to the new generation. Yeah, OG Lino plays this guy, and they went out of their way to make him look like the 80s Lino to boot. This is the original king of Thundera, King Claudius, Lino and Tigra's father. The king is a noble King Arthur type of hero. He's caring, he's compassionate, but he's also very stern. He is not soft, and it kind of shows the way he treats his sons. King Claudius is set up like he's going to be a major character, but spoilers, he's the mentor who dies. He's the mentor who raises Lino and Tigra to be great Thundercat warriors, only to die in the pilot. Yeah, so King Claudius, he drops down a few levels because he is kind of a dick. He is completely mean to his son Lino, always looks down on him, treats him like the worst one, treats him like he's not fit to be king, like he's a stupid child, he's foolish, naive, not ready for the real world, and treats Tigra as kind of the favorite, like, why can't you be more like your brother, Lino? Always looking down on him, which honestly is the reason why he lost points. He's a dick in the pilot, and also kind of racist. The king lost his way. He's slowly turning into kind of an oppressive dictator, or at least on the verge of that. He's threatening to execute the lizards who are prisoners of war. Lino finds out that the lizards are actually scouts who are hunting for food for their families. Lino convinces dad to show them mercy because cats and the other species should get along as equals. Claudius reluctantly agrees and starts seeing his son in a new light. Unfortunately, by then it's too late because he's Halo assassinated by Mumra. Question, did Lino's dad have consorts or gets around because the brother looks nothing alike? Tigra was adopted, basically. They found him. Tigra was like sent in a airship, kind of like Superman basically. Yeah, Tigra was actually sent in like a balloon airship. It was sent out because his dad was forced to abandon him, and Claudius and his wife adopted Tigra. They found him on their doorstep basically and decided to raise him. Like I could see Chris Sabat as Claudius in ThunderCats anime idea. Really? Okay. Larry Kenny, thank you. Also played Ludlow in Pokemon Horizons. Oh, I did not know that. Lieutenant Colonel Bluegrass in Poker Face, Buzzsaw, Moonstriker, Time Stopper, General Rawlings, Professor Power, Space Bandit, Lord Cash, Warden Lockup in Silverhawks. Yeah, this guy was kind of all over the 80s. Really shocked that they actually got him to voice Lino's dad. This is kind of a passing of the torch because King Claudius gets Halo assassinated by Mumra, literally stabbed in the back and thrown to his death. He parts his last words onto Lino, apologizing for being a dick, and telling his sons that he's proud of them and believes they'll make strong warriors. And it's a low-key passing of the torch. The old Lino is giving his blessings to the new Lino, Will Friedle. Really heartwarming, really great love letter to fans. Unfortunately, King Claudius is kind of just the expendable parent character. That's really all he is. He had a troubled relationship with his sons. The kids look back on all both the good days and bad days they had with dad, and Lino is carrying on his father's legacy. His dad never saw that greatness in him up until his death, and I would put him on to good because he at least ended on a positive note, and the two brothers do look fondly back on him. Tigra even calls Claudius his real dad. Whereas Queen Lenona, the mom of Lino in the tier list, sadly not on here because she like has one episode and then she dies. Yeah, sorry, we're not counting Claudius's wife because she's also an expendable parent. His wife gave birth to Lino, but unfortunately it was death by childbirth. She died. All we know is that she was a loving mother towards Tigra and died finally giving birth to Lino because she was kind of like infertile at first, and she died finally forming a child. Yeah, he's also Count Chocula and Sunny, the cuckoo bird who's cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. That's what I was trying to mention. Wolf's playing Steam. Alright, let's do Jaga, the Wise Sorcerer Supreme. Jaga also going on to Love. If my computer will ever load. Yeah, I'll put him above Kanar at least. This is Jaga, the Wise Sorcerer of Thundera. Jaga is the Obi-Wan of the ThunderCats. Jaga was in the 80s show. He was also a spiritual ghost. He was like a Force ghost. He's the Obi-Wan of ThunderCats. The wise, noble, elder, sage mentor character. He's a magic wielder ThunderCat, and honestly more of a father towards Lino than his own dad was. Jaga is kind of an eccentric mentor. Lino's Obi-Wan to his Luke. He actually sees greatness in Lino, treats him with respect, and this guy felt more like a better father than his actual dad was. Jaga was a caring, compassionate soul. We see he was once a great noble warrior in his youth. He ended up defeating the evil Rat King, sent the Sword of Plundar to its depths. He was well aware Mum-Ra was alive, but always stayed guard hunting them. He raised Cheetara as a cleric, and unfortunately made the ultimate sacrifice, giving his life to protect the ThunderCats. Jaga raised Lino basically in the Mystics. He was supposed to be his mentor, but orders Cheetara to do it because Jaga is forced to sacrifice himself. Yeah, Corey Burton played Jaga. Yeah, you like Leona's design. Yeah, she was pretty hot. Pretty hot. Yeah, Corey Burton plays Jaga, and you could tell it's Corey Burton because he uses his Count Dooku voice. I actually did think it was Christopher Lee at first, but no, it's his impressionist Corey Burton. Corey Burton was also playing Count Dooku at the time on the Clone Wars cartoon, and that made it easy for Cartoon Network to get him back because yeah, this guy, basically kind of Gandalf and Obi-Wan combined. He's a magic wielder sorcerer. He tells Lino advice from beyond the grave, and gives up his life to defeat Mum-Ra at one point. Mum-Ra ambushes and nearly succeeds at killing Lino, but Jaga uses the last of his life force to create the Heaven's Light to send Mum-Ra flying away and retreating. Jaga unfortunately dies, but this is not the end of his story because if you know the 80s show, he becomes kind of a Force ghost, influencing events and giving advice to the ThunderCats. And they do hint that he's still around. He's in the astral realm, watching over Lino, still giving them advice and giving Lino the right direction, even from beyond the grave. He like became an angel or something, but I think he's cool. I like that Mum-Ra looks very skinny and weak when he could just make himself look like he's on steroids or working out. Yeah, that's his ultimate form. If I'm honest, my favorite characters in the 2011 ThunderCats is Lino, Panthro, and Cheetara. Yeah, they are. I think Jago is actually pretty cool. I like the Elder Sage kind of vibe they give him. Again, kind of Obi-Wan and Gandalf, but that's what made him very cool. Yeah, he was Shockwave on Transformers, Brainiac in the DCAU, Dooku and Cad Bane on Star Wars, Zeus in the Hercules the animated series, and God of War. Ooh, I did not know that one. Yeah, Mumra is like a weak, frail mummy, but using his powers and his villain chant, he turns into this giant roided up demon. Oh, yeah, he was also Tomax, Lieutenant Claymore, and Owen Van Mark, Gurky Potamon, and G.I. Joe, Real American Hero. And he was Ratchet, Megatron, Shockwave, Ironhide, Spike, Wiki, and Transformers Animated. Yeah, because he was like the original voice of Shockwave and Spike. Really good Megatron, though. Yeah, I think Jaga is really cool. He's a great Sorcerer Supreme type of character. I'll put him onto Love, but don't worry, the other ThunderCats easily outclass him. He's still pretty cool in my book. But let's end things on a high note with our last one. Pumyra, the new teammate introduced in the second half of the season. Okay, this is Pumyra. She was a new character in the 80s show, and this season brought her back. Pumyra is Lion-O's second love. After Cheetara chose his brother Tigra over him, Pumyra is introduced later. She's a former slave. After Thundera fell apart, we find out that the ThunderCats are not the last of their kind. There's actually survivors, there are cats still roaming the earth. However, many of their people were taken prisoner and sold into slavery to work for Mumra's army. Yep, the ThunderCat race is still alive, but now on the bottom of the food chain. Pumyra was once a slave, forced to work for the evil rats. However, she was able to escape, but then became trapped in a gladiator pit, becoming this badass warrior. And the ThunderCats stumble upon The ThunderCats stumble across Pumyra here in the Gladiator Pit, where Lion-O has to regain her loyalty because Pumyra fucking hates him. Pumyra going on to very good. Yeah, I know some people might want her to be on S tier, especially regarding the twist, but I will go over that. So, Pumyra is the tomboy. She's the hardened soldier. She does not like talking about feelings. She's voiced by Pamela Adlon. Bobby Hill, of all people, voices this cat. And I think she's pretty cool. They gave Pumyra a much sexier design. She's clearly a new love interest for Lion-O. She's a tsundere. She's angry, she's bitter, she's hateful, and most of her character arc revolves around Lion-O because Lion-O falls in love with her, he likes her as a warrior, and Pumyra is a tsundere. She does not like Lion-O. She blames him for failing their people, basically. She blames Thundera falling entirely upon him, tells him that the people lost faith in him, and that she is definitely the number one Lion-O hater. I'm honestly glad that it still remember the shows. Do you think Wily Kit and Wily Cat's backstory is sad? To me, it still is to me to this very day. Yeah, I went over that. I think it's very sad. Also, can you rank different Venoms and Marvels, including the live action and video game ones? I might have to watch some of the video game ones. That's the big problem. Yeah, Cheetara is one of my favorites. Yeah, Cheetara's my favorite too. That's why she's number one. Yeah, the Thunder Kitten's backstory is pretty tragic. That's what made them very interesting, though. Yeah, she has the wrist-mounted crossbows / bolas. Her actress is Pamela Adlon. Yeah, Bobby Hill from King of the Hill. Didn't she die under a boulder and was revived by Mumra? Yeah, I'm getting to that. So, Pumyra is slowly but surely won over by Lion-O, falls in love with him, and very clearly horny for Lion-O, which is very funny and makes the twist all the more hilarious. So Pumyra is kind of low-key the token evil teammate. She's brash, she's impulsive, she disobeys Lion-O's orders, slowly starts to get along with them, but then we get to the twist. So Lion-O and the gang break into the Bird Kingdom, and they fight over the Tech Stone, and we find out Pumyra is a traitor. She's a spy working for Mumra. Yep, this is the big twist at the season finale, now series finale, unfortunately. Pumaira is a twist villain. From one of the greatest heroes of the original ThunderCats team to the evil backstabbing femme fatale bitch. It turns out Pumaira was stringing Lion-O all along, trying to gain the trust of the other ThunderCats and using them to help steal one of the Infinity Stones for Mumm-Ra. Pumaira actually died in the battle in the pilot. Yeah, after Mumm-Ra successfully destroyed Thundera, Pumaira actually died alone, crushed to death under rocks, begging for a king who never came back and saved her. And, rather stupidly, she blames Lion-O for causing her death. She blames Lion-O and not, the actual guy who killed her and all her people. Mumm-Ra resurrected Pumaira because he felt her seething, searing hatred for her own king. Her hatred for Lion-O was so strong that Mumm-Ra could resurrect her back to life as an evil minion. Pumaira came back from the dead, and through this long, overly complicated revenge plan, they planted her so the ThunderCats would find her in this gladiator pit and lure the ThunderCats in a false sense of safety, only for Pumaira to reveal herself and steal the tech stone for Mumm-Ra. I have to go. Bye, everyone. Bye, V Scorpio. I see Laura Bailey or Erica Harlacher as Pumaira's actress in the anime ThunderCats. I think Laura Bailey could do it. Developed to a tomboy love interest, slowly redeeming herself, and betrayal strikes. Poetic irony. Yeah, that's why a lot of people prefer traditionally feminine women. And it's done, and sadly Queen, Leona, Soro, Annette, Robert, Bill, Zig, and the other characters aren't in the tier list. Sorry, I didn't include the side characters. Pumaira is the Malty-S Meloromac from Rising of the Shield Hero in ThunderCats 2011. Kind of. Though, this is also one of the weirdest things, too. There's actually more to just her betrayal. Sorry, I just need some water. So, Pumaira reveals herself that she's evil and has been in league with Mumm-Ra the entire time. But, just in case you weren't grossed out by Lion-O and Wily Kit's relationship, guess what? The show implies that Pumaira isn't just Mumm-Ra's minion, but his lover. Yes, Pumaira and Mumm-Ra are a couple, and Mumm-Ra hints that they've been banging and is basically his evil queen. Yes, Pumaira and Mumm-Ra are doing it and sleeping together. Pumaira twists the knife even further, revealing that she loves Mumm-Ra because he is my master. And we get pretty much big hints at this because Mumm-Ra at one point strokes her face and calls her, "Oh, my beloved Pumaira, you've done well." And when they're running away, "Come, my sweet, we must depart." Yeah, that's actually a thing. Mumm-Ra and Pumaira were banging. Pumaira is his evil queen, and she actually hits on Mumm-Ra right in front of Lion-O just to pour salt in the wound. Like, Mumm-Ra, strokes her face sensually. She kisses his armor. Yeah, they're doing it. They are doing it. Also, yesterday I got a new raincoat. During the summertime, Akira? Like why you see Daphne Blake as Pumaira, explained. Not this Pumaira, the 80s Pumaira, who was an actual redhead. I still prefer both. Sometimes tomboy love interest can be redeemed, and yikes, that really stings about Mumm-Ra and her. Yeah. Ew, this just got even more disgusting. Yeah, Pumaira's into necrophilia because Mumm-Ra literally is a zombie, man. Ew, this just got even more disturbing. What did she see in him? Did he put on his ultimate form so they can do it? Why? Yeah, apparently Mumm-Ra and Pumaira are a villain couple, and Mumra's comments imply that yes, she is his loved one. Pumaira and he are the villain couple, the Rita Repulsa and Lord Zed of this show. He actually calls Pumaira my sweet, strokes her face, and says, "You've done well, my beloved." Yeah, they're doing it. They are a couple. Pumaira even like kisses his armor at one point. It's a few seconds, but yeah, she kissed him on the hand and kisses like his helmet. Yeah, they're doing it. They are totally doing it. Pumaira's into necrophilia, but I guess it's not creepy because technically she died too. Yeah, Pumaira and Mumra are a villain couple. They managed to escape, successfully stealing the Tech Stone, but the ThunderCats save the Bird Kingdom from falling out of the sky to its death. They save the bird people, but the villains get away, and the second season ends on a cliffhanger that they're hunting the next stone. So, there was going to be a lot more focus on Pumaira next season. She was going to be a reoccurring villain. She would like take over as another villain general. We would see her and Voltaire paired up more, even though they hate each other. And I kid you not, they actually do say they had plans to have Pumaira killed off eventually. So, Pumaira is going to be like Lion-O's Catwoman. Lion-O could not decide if he wanted to kill her or he still loved her, believed that she could be redeemed. Pumaira would have her tragic backstory revealed, and Lion-O would question what to do with her. He doesn't know if he wants to kill her or he's still simping for her. He wants to save her. Pumaira would use Lion-O's emotions against him. Also, make it morally gray if Pumaira could be saved or not. However, this would come to a head in Pumaira's final episode. They actually did plan a death episode for her. Pumaira would become corrupted by the ultimate power of one of the Infinity Stones and allegedly transform into a giant praying mantis kaiju cat thing. Yeah, for real. She was like going to become like a giant praying mantis monster, like this deranged insect, kind of like Trachina, and she would go on a rampage, forcing the ThunderCats to kill her. Lion-O would try to win her back over, help her regain her sanity, but Tigra would end up killing her. Tigra would realize that Pumaira is far gone and do the hard task his brother isn't strong enough to do. He would kill Pumaira and it would revive their brotherhood rivalry. Lion-O would argue, "No, I could have saved her. She could have been redeemed. We could have healed her." And Tigra would point out that she was far gone, brother. We couldn't have done anything to save her. She was evil before she became a monster. And it would lead to a falling out between the brothers where Tigra and Lion-O would go their separate ways until the finale fight. Yeah, that is actually the alleged plans they had for Pumaira. She would be a bad person who grew worse, and there would be a will they, won't they kind of idea with Lion-O. Dimitri and Morgan are a perfect couple. Yeah, that's why Morgan decided to be turned into a stone statue for eternity rather than kiss Dimitri. Sorry, catch up on comments. Like Rita and Lord Zed is better. The ships are getting worse. Yeah, if you thought Lion-O and Wily Kit was creepy, Pumaira is going to become a villain couple with Mumra. And yeah, Mumra kind of confirmed they're doing it just to piss off Lion-O more. The ships are getting worse and worse. This is worse like Dimitri and Morgan from the OVA. And Nube and Yukime from Jigoku Sensei. Nube is better. No, it's not Akira. Monica is fiercely defending. Okay, so Dimitri and Morgan could work as a romance. Unfortunately, the games do kind of clarify that Morgan does not have feelings for him. And the OVA especially made it confusing because they kind of hook up out of nowhere. That was my problem with it, Monica. Dimitri and Morgan meet for the first time, then decide they want to become a villain couple. Couldn't the writer think of a more clever way to end the show? Apparently not. Unlike Mumra and her, Lord Zed and Rita is slightly tolerable, but I think Zed really needs to redeem himself, and I wish that ThunderCats 2011 would have a season 2, but sadly no. Yeah, it sucks. Palmyra was actually going to be killed off in the second season, turning into like a Power Ranger monster or something, and Tigra would be the one forced to kill her, bringing back the old rivalry because Tigra had to do it and Lion-O sees it as another betrayal by his brother, until Wily Kit's love would help him out of his funk. Yeah, that was a thing. The ships on this show were really weird. Out of all the romances, only Tigra and Cheetara's felt like the healthiest. Let me live in my denial. Okay, Monica. Like my cat is on my sister's bed who wants me to read a sister's textbook. I think Zed really needs to find someone else other than Rita, in my opinion. Oh, yeah, definitely. Rita drugged him into loving her. That's how toxic she is. Like I simp for Morgan's bath scene. You mean her swimming scene. She was in a lake, but yeah, technically bathing. Yeah, Morgan's hot. I see the point. Yeah, Morgan is hot as hell, but I prefer Felicia. What can I say? I dig the sexy good girl. That's why Cheetara's my #1, and Palmyra's down here on very good. Unfortunately, I would have loved to see more of Palmyra as a villain, which is why she sadly has to go down at least one level. The twist also had, like, very little foreshadowing. It got foreshadowed in later episodes, but kind of confusing because this plan was so overly complex that Palmyra had no way of predicting how Lion-O would be reacting in their first few episodes. But yeah, pretty good twist, and the show actually made Palmyra more interesting on the anime than she was in the 80s show. In the 80s show, Palmyra was just the tomboy. She was another girl character to spice up the team dynamic, so Cheetara and Wily Kit were no longer the sole females. Here, they made her a full-on twist villain, and a really shockingly good one because you don't see it coming. Like, Palmyra is traditionally one of the hero ThunderCats, so making her a villain was actually kind of brilliant. I'll put her on to very good just for that alone. Unfortunately, her tenure as a villain was short-lived, and I do have to remind you that she's dating Mum-Ra, so yeah, vomit-inducing. Very vomit-inducing. At least unlike Mum-Ra, Dimitri is a lot more bangable. Yeah, that is true, I'll give you that. He's still undead technically, but he doesn't look like a fresh demon corpse like Mum-Ra does. Could Daphne Blake cosplay as Morgan or Felicia if she did a Darkstalkers cosplay? I could see her as Morgan because Morgan is a fashionista. Can't really see her as Felicia, but Velma also can't be Felicia. Velma's more like Hasinko. Like if Akira is in ThunderCats 2011 character as the last member of the Fox clan. That would be pretty cool. I prefer to ship Lion-O and Palmyra, because shipping Lion-O and Wily Kit is just, Her and Mum-Ra, double, So, fun fact, in the 80s show, Lion-O and Palmyra actually do hook up. Yeah, Palmyra actually is Lion-O's official love interest in the original cartoon and some of the comics. The 2011 one decided to throw us for a curveball, making her seem like she was going to be Lion-O's second love, and revealing that no, she's actually dating Mum-Ra and was using him, stringing him all along, leading to a morally gray story for season 2 where he'd still try to save her because Lion-O's that much of a simp. Palmyra would question her place, but ultimately give in to evil in the end and turn into a monster, letting her evil pettiness basically consume her and corrupt her into an even greater evil than her boyfriend Mum-Ra. Yeah, her dating Mum-Ra, that was really gross, and Mum-Ra's comments imply that yes, he does do her. But yeah, in the 80s show, Palmyra and Lion-O actually do fall in love and do become a couple. Here, no, they throw a twist villain in, and I actually do like her. I'll put her on to very good. Palmyra is definitely a great twist villain example. So she's going on to A tier, ending us off on a high note. Seriously, what is going on with the writers' minds when they have Mum-Ra ship with Palmyra, you mean? Or Panthera. And we have no hate characters, like same with Mystery Incorporated monster tier list. Yeah, because the show is that good. Honestly, didn't know what happened in the 80s show. I really need to catch up with it someday. Yeah, ThunderCats, the 80s show lasted a long time. There's like 300 episodes now. Really disappointed we never got to see the Lunataks in the anime show. The Lunataks were one of my favorite villain gangs. We need an 80s Thundercat tier list. Yeah, that could be really fun. Maybe because they haven't watched the classic. I do have to finish the classic show. I never saw the final season, and they did add another Thundercat on the team. I wanted to see what the Lunataks would look like on this show. The Lunataks are this rival villain demon gang who try to compete with Mumra over killing the Thundercats, and they were actually pretty cool. But as you can see, that pretty much wraps up our tier list. We talked about all of them. I'll go over it for any late birds or any of you who skip click all the way to the end. But really had fun doing this. We talked about all the major characters. Sorry no one-shots or minor side characters made it on, but I didn't want to be here forever. Alright, so as you can see, we have actually zero, absolute zero in the hate section. Just like Mystery Incorporated, we found a great show to do a tier list on. But up here in whatever, I guess the worst character has to go to Linkso because he's a cameo. That's really all he is. He's just a glorified cameo. And General Slythe. Slythe could have been an interesting character, but his story arc was saved for second season, which is why he sadly ranks very low. He's a lot more badass than he was in the 80s show, but not much personality compared to his OG counterpart. Sorry, Slythe fans, he's going on to whatever. Then in good, Snarf and King Claudius. I like them fine. That's really all I have to say about them. I like them fine. They were decent. Snarf actually was going to get a character arc, but again, season 2 never happened. And I wanted to love King Claudius, but his dickish moments kind of cost him points. But I'll still put them on to good. They were definitely interesting characters. Then, very good, we have Atticus the monkey, and love the psychotic monkey barbarian who eats other animals. General Groon, he is awesome in this show. I wish he lasted longer, and more importantly, I wish we got to see him become the astral monster, but as is, Clancy Brown delivers. It's one of his best roles. Vulture Man, aka Voltaire, loved him, just wish he got a whole lot more. He's an interesting Edward Nygma type of character to have on ThunderCats. They definitely did my favorite minion justice. And Pumira, an excellent twist villain. You do not see it coming. Pamela Adlon actually delivers a very dramatic performance, and I was surprised at how good she was. Pumira in this show deserved a lot more, though unfortunately she does lose points because they ended up not doing enough with her as an evil villainess, and I actually liked her more as that. That was a disturbing ending. Yeah, talking about Pumira and Mumra flying off into the dark like Dimitri and Morgan. Sounds good. Also, I think Pumira's betrayal kind of reminds me of Sideways from Transformers Armada. Oh, really? Okay. And waiting for the Aztec Batman to see Poison Ivy. Yeah, she's going to be on that movie, which is why we're not doing her yet. But let's finally talk about the top characters, the S tier, the ones I love. Wily Kit and Wily Cat. Ready? Ho. Love them in the 80s show, and love them even more on this anime show. They are cute, adorable, and badass kid characters. Kanar, really liked him. He's, again, just the Joker. He's the Joker on ThunderCats. That's automatically awesome. Jaga. I am a fan of the wise elder mentor character archetype, and they definitely did him justice on this show. Corey Burton, you are awesome. Tigra. The show pulled a miracle by making one of my least favorite Thundercats one of the best characters of the series. Tigra is fully redeemed on this cartoon and is an interesting foil to his brother Lion-O. Panthro. Yeah, was there really any doubt? Panthro's awesome. He's cool, he's badass, he's a kick-ass old soldier, and a very funny character. Like him, he's definitely in the top 4. Mumra, the ever-living. Yeah, kick-ass villain. He is right up there with the Shredder, with Megatron, with Cobra Commander as iconic badass 80s villain, and this show made him utterly horrifying. One of my favorite Robin Atkin Downes performances ever. Mumra is just as cool here as he was back in yesteryear. Lion-O. Yeah, of course the main character's up here. They did a very interesting job with him, and Will Friedle definitely made Lion-O his own. But my number one character is, surprising absolutely no one, the sexy Catwoman, Cheetara. Yeah, I love her, not just because she's hot, but she's also really cool, very interesting as a character, very unique, and honestly kind of fun. I like the Team Mom character archetype, and Cheetara is definitely one of the best ones. She's caring, she's compassionate, but also isn't afraid to throw down like a badass, strong, independent woman. Cheetara is my number one favorite character. I know, shocker. The cat who crushes on and simps for Selena Kyle also likes another sexy cat girl. And I hope we see more ThunderCats media and manga and anime. I think manga would do it more justice. Anime, definitely, but Cartoon Network has to sell the rights, and after ThunderCats Roar, they really should consider it. Yeah, Cheetara's number one. Linkso, unfortunately, dead last. If I had to be forced to pick a real worst character, might have to go with Took-It because he's a piece of crap. Or, you know, any of the one-shot characters who didn't matter. But yeah, Linkso, easily the weakest character. Cheetara's number one. Take one last snapshot. I did all the characters who basically were important on this show, and you can see the entire tier list in full. Well, I have to go continue my Venom fanfiction series. Bye, Monica, and my Spider-Man series I'm working on Wattpad. Bye. Bye, Monica. Thanks for checking out. Like Cheetara. Yep, Cheetara's awesome. Or I should say Possum. Perfection. Alright, as you can see, that pretty much completes our tier list. Take one last snapshot. Thank you all for joining us. I'm really glad you like these tier lists. I love the ThunderCats, so I recently binged the show, so it felt right to talk about the best characters. It's an awesome series, and you should definitely check it out. It sadly only lasted one season, but it's a very great season. So, what's going to be the next tier list? I do have another DC character tier list plan, but I'm also going to be working on another video because October is coming up on us soon, so I want to get one of my Halloween videos done, working on a surprise for the 1st of October. Yeah, I hope you guys look forward to it. It's another top 10, but a very insane one. When the next tier list will happen, not sure. Maybe the weekend, but it depends on what I get recorded soon. I do have a new Power Rangers top 10 currently out on YouTube right now. Check it out. I did the Lightspeed Rescue episodes. Wolf has some plans in store that he's currently working on. Wish he joined us for one of these tier lists again, but he's busy. He does what he does. But for now, I'll let you guys go. Thank you all for watching. I'll set you guys free right now. Remember to like, comment, share, and subscribe, or just tune in for more content posted here on Wolf Entertainment. I'm your host, Catastrophe, and ThunderCats, ho!